Bible prophecy is active and unfolding daily. Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Here is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. Last Thursday, Swedish police arrested 25-year-old Muhtar Muthana Majid, whom they believe has links to ISIS and whom they've been hunting on suspicion of planning an attack. A 60-year-old Israeli, Shmuel Menalal, was among 20 people killed last Friday after Islamist militants attacked the Radisson Hotel in Bamako, Mali. Italy is looking for 5 terror suspects after a tip-off from the FBI about possible jihadist attacks on landmark sites, including St. Peter's Cathedral in the Vatican. And there is a fast-growing concern in America, where elected officials on the federal and state levels are telling Washington that they do not want any Syrian refugees or migrants sent to their states. These so-called Syrian migrants are neither Syrians nor migrants, but rather Islamic terrorists who have been obtaining falsified passports and infiltrating America in a number of ways, including making their way into the U.S. through South America and Mexico. FBI Director James B. Comey has warned that Islamic State, an organization that was added to the agency's list of foreign terrorist groups only last year, is now operating in every state in America. Islamic Jihad is expanding its reach into the West, my friends. I have a message for all men out there and for single mothers who have no man as their headship. There is absolutely no greater form of protection and safety to be had in this world than there is through making Elohim number one on a list of 1 in your life and in your house. There's no wiser path that anyone could possibly take than that of pitching your tent, building your house with Elohim, and learning how he pitches his tent with you, how he shows you his way. If there are any problems with anyone who is under your charge, that is, under your roof, under your headship, the responsibility and the cause originates with you because you are the head of your house. Last Thursday, I presented a video titled Satan's Dirty Deeds. You'll see this graphic at the end of today's video. You can click on that, or you'll see a text link below the newscast video. You can click on that. It'll take you right over to that video. And I talked about a few of the ways that the devil is deceiving people today. When the Messiah, Yeshua, was asked about the signs we should look for in order to know about the end of days and his second coming on earth, he responded by saying, "Be careful that no one deceives you, causing you to lose your footing on the way." The way. The narrow path that leads to righteousness. He didn't talk about signs. He talked about deceptions. Why? Because if you are in the Word and pitching your tent with Elohim, making him number 1 on a list of 1 in your life, you won't need to know the signs. You will see them. But anyone who is not making him number 1 on a list of 1 in their life, the things of this world are going to cloud their judgment. They're going to be deceived and confused about everything in their life, and they will be the reason all their loved ones fall into darkness and confusion as well. Especially the men, the heads of the houses. We are all entering a time in this world, my friends, that is going to become the most dreadful time in the entire history of the planet, comparable to no other time in all of recorded history, unlike anything anyone has ever known. If you're a man and the head of a household, it is your essential and fundamental duty and obligation not only to be aware of what is going on in the world today, but even more importantly, to be aware of and educated in the Father's Word. It is your responsibility to be the one, as master of your house, who makes Elohim number one on a list of one in your house. And it is also your responsibility to teach the Father's Word to your family members, your wife, your children, anyone who lives in your house, as you have been commanded by Elohim to do. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 18, 19, and 20 reads, "You shall lay up these, my words," Yahuwah speaking, "in your minds and your hearts and in your entire being, and bind them for a sign upon your hands and as forehead bands between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk along the road, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and on your gates." Turning to wars and rumors of wars, on Tuesday, November 17th, from the Wall Street Journal, United States defense officials said that Russia began an aggressive air campaign using sea-launched cruise missiles and long-range bombers against sites in Raqqa, the Islamic State's stronghold in Syria, following Moscow's confirmation that a bomb downed a Russian airliner over Egypt last month. In a televised war room briefing led by President Vladimir Putin, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said the number of Russian airstrikes have been doubled, destroying 140 terrorist facilities in Syria. On Wednesday, November 18th, the Israeli military carried out 2 airstrikes in the Palestinian Gaza Strip as a response to a rocket fired from the Strip toward Israel. The Israeli attacks targeted 2 military facilities operated by the Hamas movement, which runs government affairs in the Strip. Sources in Gaza told the Ma'an news agency that the strikes targeted Hamas training camps and also caused material damages to nearby homes. The hacking group known as Anonymous shut down 5,000 Twitter accounts belonging to Islamic State supporters and have started the creation of a list of web pages to attack using a digital weapon called Distributed Denial of Service, DDoS. They have published the names, addresses, and phone numbers of 5 alleged recruiters working for ISIS and are preparing to launch a cyber attack in honor of their pledge to hunt down ISIS in retaliation for their terrorist attacks in Paris on November 13th. Then on Thursday, November 19th, from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Airstrikes by France and Russia on the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa in Syria have killed at least 33 militants since Sunday. Also, the families of ISIS leaders have started leaving Raqqa for Mosul in Iraq. Then on Friday, November 20th, more than 600 militants were killed by Russian cruise missiles in Syria's Deir ez-Zor province. The Russian aircraft bombed 23 militant training camps, 19 factories making weapons and explosives, 47 arms caches, and other terrorist facilities. On Sunday, November 22nd, from the Huffington Post, in an intensifying campaign to squeeze Islamic State oil revenues, U.S. planes destroyed 116 oil trucks in eastern Syria that were a key part of a smuggling operation that brings the group an estimated $1.4 million per day. 4 A-10 Thunderbolt II attack planes and 2 AC-130 Spectre gunships pounded the trucks as they clustered near Abu Kamal, a town close to the Iraqi border. Now turning to our Intifada update. On Tuesday, November 17th, from the Jerusalem Post, a 16-year-old Palestinian who suspiciously approached Israeli security forces with a knife in his hand near the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron on Wednesday morning was subdued without incident. From Ynet News and Haaretz, 3 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at IDF troops near Termus Ayah in the West Bank on Tuesday. The soldiers returned fire, killing 24-year-old Mohammed Munir Hassan Salah. 2 others were arrested. From France 24 News, 56-year-old Sion Saadoun, a Chabad emissary and teacher at a Jewish school in Marseille, was stabbed by 3 people shouting anti-Semitic obscenities and expressing support for ISIS. Then on Wednesday, November 18th, from the Times of Israel, a Palestinian teen was arrested after approaching a border police post in the city with a knife. Also, IDF and border police forces arrested 17 Palestinian terrorist suspects throughout the West Bank later in the day. On Thursday, November 19th, from the Jerusalem Post, IDF soldiers arrested 3 Palestinian women who tried to enter a military position armed with knives. From the Times of Israel, an IDF soldier was lightly wounded when a homemade grenade was thrown at a checkpoint in the Flashpoint West Bank city of Hebron. The attack took place at the pharmacy checkpoint during a demonstration by Palestinians, and the soldier received medical care in the field. Then 2 Israelis were killed and at least 2 others wounded by a Palestinian in a stabbing attack in southern Tel Aviv. Over 1,000 Palestinian residents of the Hebron area have had their entry permits into Israel suspended following the stabbing attack, which was carried out by a permit holder from the area. Also, 3 people were killed and 4 others injured by a Palestinian in shooting attacks near Alon Shavut in the Etzion block in the West Bank. The attacker opened fire at Israeli vehicles with an automatic weapon from inside his vehicle, hitting several people. Then he rammed his vehicle into a car. Security personnel shot back at the suspect and arrested him. From Haaretz, Ezra Schwartz, an 18-year-old student from Sharon, Massachusetts, in America, was among 3 people killed in a shooting attack in the West Bank on Thursday afternoon. He was in Israel for his gap year and was studying at the yeshiva Eshrenu in Beit Shemesh. Schwartz and two other students from the yeshiva were in a minivan on their way to deliver snacks to Israel Defense Forces soldiers when a Palestinian opened fire toward a line of cars and killed them. According to Channel 2, the Palestinian motorist was armed with an Uzi submachine gun. Following a pair of fatal attacks in Tel Aviv and Gush Etzion, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel will settle accounts with the terrorists and exact a price from their families. He said the homes of the terrorists will be demolished and their residency revoked. Netanyahu held high-level security consultations to discuss moves to carry out in the Hebron area, the region from where most of the terrorists have come in recent days, and said that the same Islamist extremists who are trying to destroy Israel are attacking Paris and threatening Europe. Then on Saturday, November 21st, from Ynet News, 18-year-old Muhammad Tarda from Yatta near Hebron in the West Bank stabbed 4 people in the Israeli city of Kiryat Gat on Saturday evening, including a 13-year-old girl, a 51-year-old man, and 2 women aged 44 and 56. The suspect was captured with the blood-soaked knife in his possession. And on Sunday, November 22nd, from Haaretz, 21-year-old Hadar Bukhris was stabbed to death at Gush Etzion Junction by a 34-year-old Issam Thwabteh from Beit Fajar, a nearby Arab village. Israeli army soldiers shot and killed the assailant. From the Jerusalem Post, citizens and security forces killed a female Palestinian terrorist, Ashrakat Katnani, who attempted to knife Israelis at a bus stop near the Hawara checkpoint outside Nablus in the West Bank on Sunday. Then, in another incident, a Palestinian taxi driver rammed into an Israeli car at the Mishor Adumim junction and then attempted to stab an Israeli at the scene with a knife. 2 other Israelis at the scene shot the terrorist and killed him. Then the Palestinian Authority accused Israel of planting knives near the bodies of Palestinians who were killed during stabbing attacks against Israelis. However, after 16-year-old Ashrakat Katnani was killed, after she tried to stab Israelis near Nablus, the girl's father was quoted by Palestinian media saying that his daughter set out to seek martyrdom and, he says, "I'm proud of her. She wanted to stab and asked me about the best knives in the house," close quote. Then on Monday, November 23rd, from Haaretz, 2 female Palestinian assailants aged 14 and 16 stabbed a Palestinian man in his 70s near the Mahane Yehuda outdoor market in Jerusalem. Another man was wounded while trying to stop them. The assailants were shot by a police officer while they were trying to stab others. 1 was killed, and the second was seriously wounded. So to recap, Islamic terrorists are seen in the news in Sweden, Italy, and in every state of the United States of America, just to name a few. Islamic Jihad is expanding at an accelerated pace. Russian airstrikes have doubled in Syria. Israeli military carried out 2 airstrikes in the Palestinian Gaza Strip. The hacking group known as Anonymous shut down 5,000 Twitter accounts belonging to Islamic State supporters and have started the creation of a list of web pages they are going to attack. Airstrikes by France and Russia on the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa in Syria have escalated. More than 600 militants were killed by Russian cruise missiles in Syria. U.S. planes destroyed 116 oil trucks in eastern Syria. A 16-year-old Palestinian wielding a knife was subdued without incident. 3 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at IDF troops in the West Bank. 56-year-old Sion Saadoun was stabbed by 3 people shouting anti-Semitic obscenities and expressing their support for ISIS. A Palestinian teen was arrested after approaching a border police post in the city with a knife. IDF and border police forces arrested 17 Palestinian terror suspects throughout the West Bank. IDF soldiers arrested 3 Palestinian women who tried to enter a military position armed with knives. An IDF soldier was lightly wounded when a homemade grenade was thrown at him. 2 Israelis were killed and at least 2 others wounded by a Palestinian in a stabbing attack in southern Tel Aviv. 3 people were killed and 4 others injured by a Palestinian in shooting attacks in the West Bank. An 18-year-old student from Sharon, Massachusetts was among 3 people killed in a shooting attack in the West Bank. 18-year-old Muhammad Tarda stabbed 4 people in the Israeli city of Kiryat Gat. 21-year-old Hadar Bukhris was stabbed to death at Gush Etzion Junction. A female Palestinian terrorist attempted to knife Israelis at a bus stop. A Palestinian taxi driver rammed into an Israeli car and then attempted to stab an Israeli at the scene with a knife. And 2 female Palestinian assailants, aged 14 and 16, stabbed a Palestinian man in his 70s. And that, my friends, is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. Until then, stay safe. Shalom.
Crowded rooms, I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath the naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.